This Week in Voice Daily, Wednesday, July 7th. My name is Bradley Metrock, CEO of Project Voice. Want to do a hopefully quick, off-the-cuff kind of video today about Google. So I want to pull up this article, well, if I can. Google's been in the news over firing one of their more prominent ethical AI researchers, this woman here, Dr. Timnit Gebru. And after she was fired, some other people left or resigned or something. And it's caused a big stink on social media. It's not a great situation. Basically, she had produced a paper that Google apparently didn't like. There was some tension with her in the company already. She made a lot of demands apparently about this paper to Google, which Google rejected all of them. And she said she'd resign if they didn't accept it. She went on vacation, came back, locked out of her email, fired, and Google said, "Oh, we accepted your resignation." So it's a mess. I'm paraphrasing. If you want to read about it, trust me, there's been plenty written. So what most people don't realize, this is history repeating itself. All of this sort of stuff happened back in early 2017. I'm not going to mention the woman's name, but the person who was in charge of evangelizing Google Assistant, really the first person they had doing that, because back then Alexa was dominant and ubiquitous, and Google was just trying to catch up. The woman who was doing it, all that for them, same situation. She was out in front, she was vocal, she was loud, she was championing the company's technology. Stuff wasn't sitting right with Google back in HQ. She was terminated. And like this woman, it didn't go well after that. She really had a lot of problems getting back on her feet. She's back on her feet now, but it was a bad situation then. Didn't hurt Google at all. They didn't care. But for the people involved, they got hurt. So it's interesting to see this sort of thing playing out. The media is caught up in this for a number of reasons, whereas they didn't really cover it back in 2017, but nevertheless, very similar situations. So what I wanted to talk about here is there is an organization called Women in Machine Learning. So Women in Machine Learning is a group of women working with machine learning, and they have events, and they felt compelled to write a whole Twitter thread about the fact that they're going to be a little bit harder on the organizations that they partner with now. And this entire thread is just a big setup to talk about Google. So I'm going to read this. Due to the nature of the recent events at Google involving the treatment of the ethical AI team, the Women in Machine Learning Board has decided that we will not be accepting money from or entering into a partnership with Google for this fiscal year. Okay, so if you overlook the fact that what this is saying is that due to how Google has interacted with 2, 3, 4, 5 employees or people, we're going to discard the whole 130,000 plus person organization and act like they're trash. It's what I'm fascinated by is something that we're now seeing with this whole area of emerging technology, starting with voice technology at the top, AI, machine learning, data science sitting underneath, where we're seeing this beginning of a reckoning with big tech. And I'm fascinated by this. So Women in Machine Learning, I'm sure these are perfectly reasonable people. I don't think this is a particularly reasonable approach, but they didn't ask my opinion. Now, if I go over to Women in Voice, so this is the website for Women in Voice, which is an organization organizing women working with voice technology, I go to platinum sponsors. Hey, Google, first corporate sponsor for 2021. It's not enough to put this logo here. No, they need a whole press release, which we can click on, to explain how great they are. So Women in Voice, we have a great relationship with them. They're great people as well. They want to talk about Google. Women in Machine Learning, we don't talk about Google. They're trash. So meanwhile, a lot of women are part of both of these organizations. Women in Machine Learning has got a, I can't navigate to it, but they've got a list of their members as of a month or two ago on the website. So I browsed through that, and sure enough, there's names I recognize that are part of Women in Voice also. So it's always a small world. There's people who are part of both organizations. Now, this is the Women in Machine Learning website where they have a code of conduct posted. And when you read the code of conduct, like all code of conducts, it's incredibly hypocritical and very hard to maintain, but nevertheless, it's here. So I'm going to read this first sentence under unacceptable behavior. Women in Machine Learning is dedicated to providing an experience for all participants that is free from harassment, bullying, discrimination, and retaliation. So again, that's harassment, bullying, discrimination, and retaliation, okay? So when you read what they tweeted, due to the nature of what Google did to these 3, 4, 5 women, we will retaliate and not have anything to do with them. So immediately the their own code of conduct is violated. That's not any kind of surprise, but it is worth pointing out. Also worth pointing out is the very next tweet. In light of recent press highlighting the treatment of Amazon employees involving racial discrimination, gender inequality, and workplace harassment, the Women in Machine Learning board decided we won't be working with Amazon either. They can get on out of here. So Women in Machine Learning is not having any part of any of these people. They don't like Google and they don't like Amazon. And this Amazon tweet is especially harsh. And it's interesting that they're not going to take their money. You could make the argument that if they took the money, maybe they could help turn things around. If they had a relationship, maybe they could turn things around. That's clearly what Women in Voice think, is that having a relationship is better than not having a relationship. And I completely agree. I think that that's always the way to go. But that's not what they're doing here. They're throwing all these people in the trash. And it's interesting to ponder, if you're a Google or an Amazon employee that's part of this organization, you're not feeling real good. You might feel bullied. They're throwing your organization in the garbage. Maybe Amazon or Google's the first organization that ever gave you a chance to do this line of work that you love and that you wanted to do. And here's this organization saying they're garbage. It's a I hate to use the word problematic because it's so overused and just a code word, but it's not a good situation here. Furthermore, if I am part of Amazon or Google Human Resources and I see this organization tweeting something like this about us, I'm watching closely who continues to work with this organization, because whoever continues to work with this organization, they're not doing their best work for Google or Amazon. They're working with somebody who thinks we're garbage. So they must not be that committed to their job. This is going to get other people fired, is what it's going to do. All this is going to do is hurt people. Now look, I've been part of banning a company from our events before. Macmillan, I banned them from Digital Book World. Why? Because the CEO made unsavory comments about working with libraries, and it was indefensible. So I banned all Macmillan employees from attending Digital Book World, a business we went out and acquired in 2017, until they changed their policy. There's no until here. There is, I guess we'll wait for a year, but there's no corrective action. It's just, you're trash, and we'll check back in a year and see if you're still trash. That, I think, is really what's missing here. If there was some sort of corrective action that this Women in Machine Learning gave to Amazon and Google saying, hey, we're going to assume that you're trying to do the right thing. Here's what we would love for you to do. I think that's a different tone than, and a different kind of approach than this, which is going to get people in trouble, and it's going to just cause conflict. Ultimately, there's a bottom line here. And the bottom line is that organizations of all types, forget Women in Machine Learning, I mean, they're going through it too. Every organization is thinking through right now what their relationship with big tech is. And it's interesting to watch. You can quibble with this, or you can think this is the right approach, or whatever you want to think. But coming out of this pandemic, big tech is under fire. And as I've noted before in these daily videos, when I talked about Project Understood, big tech is not the enemy all the time. I think it's really important for anybody, especially people espousing stuff like this, to be able to freely speak about things they like, things that they value or respect about any company. Even if you don't like them, even if you're not going to take Google's money, you don't want anything to do with them, you still should be able to rattle off, so big, you ought to be able to rattle off a couple of things that they've done that you like. I think that shaping the discourse like that is a positive. And I think when it comes to big tech, it's going to be absolutely necessary. We have to be able to reckon with some of the things about big tech we don't like, while separating out the things we do like, and being unafraid to talk about it and think that someone's going to cast judgment on us just because we said something positive about who might be an enemy. So it's a complicated scenario, but it absolutely is history repeating. Google is doing a lot of the same things with this Dr. Gebru that they did back in 2017. It's obvious. It's not a good situation. But what makes it worse is stuff like this, and some of the fallout. So wanted to talk about it. Organizations are going to do what they feel like they need to do. We're included. We make decisions with regards to sponsorships as well. A lot of it is behind the scenes. Sometimes it's not. So it's worth talking about. I suspect this won't be the last time. For This Week in Voice Daily, thank you for watching. Until next time.